And the Wequity Road never starts until the middle of February. So then you've got a month to build the road.
Tonight, preparations to connect two remote communities in the Northwest Territories has begun.
We have a lot of Indigenous comics here in Saskatoon.
A group of Saskatchewan comedians are taking the show on the road.
We've already developed loyal customers and regulars.
And a new coffee shop in Iqaluit has opened their doors. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The RCMP says it's moving forward with a plan to address systemic racism and discrimination in the force. The RCMP call it the Race-Based Data Collection Initiative. An RCMP press release says Mounties will collect data on their interactions with racialized peoples, including Indigenous communities. And it starts this month at select detachments across Canada, including ones in Whitehorse, Wood Buffalo, Fort McMurray, Alberta, and Thompson, Manitoba. The force says these sites were chosen based on 2 years of public consultation. The proposed Kaska mine in southeast Yukon is the center of a legal battle between the Kaska Nation and the territorial and federal governments. The Kaska launched a judicial review after they felt the governments did not consult them about the mine's approval. Here's Sarah Connors with more.
Yukon Supreme Court Chief Justice Suzanne Duncan has found that territorial and federal governments did provide adequate consultation when approving the Kaska mine to the regulatory process. According to a January 2nd written decision, the governments exhibited significant patience, flexibility, and persistence in their many good faith but unsuccessful attempts to meet with First Nations to obtain their feedback. But the Kaska aren't feeling discouraged. They claim despite issuing a last-minute submission on June 14, 2022, the governments failed to take the document into consideration before issuing their decision. Chief Justice Duncan agreed. Chief Dylan Loblaw of the Ross River Dinna Council, which filed the civil suit on behalf of the Kaska Nation, says it's feeling good about getting the consultation it's been fighting for.
We have our work cut out for us, and we look forward to going back to that June 14th, 22 submission deadline.
Duncan ruled the decision document that originally approved the mine be set aside so the Kaska and governments can have a consultation meeting about the June 14th document. The governments will then be required to issue a decision within 30 days of that meeting. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
APTN also received a statement from the Yukon government about the decision. A spokesperson said should the project proceed, it will continue to consult with the Kaska throughout the lifetime of the project. Two remote Clecho-Dene communities are once again about to be connected to the rest of the Northwest Territories by winter road. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs traveled to Wati to get a sense of the significance. Here's that story.
It's a sight for sore eyes, kicking off construction of the Clecho Winter Road in the Northwest Territories. Project manager Tyler Duluth says after months of planning and profiling, a crew of 34 people are responsible for making this critical piece of infrastructure possible.
Last year we used 56 pieces of equipment, from generators, snowcats, water trucks, graders, all that sort of stuff. This year we started on the 4th of December and we're looking for construction to end on March 2nd.
In November 2021, the Clecho community of Wati did away with their winter road operations and opened an all-season road, ultimately lowering the cost of living and boosting economic development. But the landscape doesn't allow a permanent road beyond Wati. Instead, for 6 to 8 weeks, the 275-person community of Gamati can travel nearly 151 kilometers by winter road. And for 4 to 6 weeks, the 140-person community of Wequity can drive the 243-kilometer winter road. It's not for the faint of heart either. Big weather can roll in quickly.
There's a couple of trouble spots there on the Gamity portion, North Hislop Lake. Has an overflow whenever the temperatures kind of kick up. So generally there's a snowcat station there, and we deal with that as it comes, just to keep the road open. But when there's a really bad snowstorm, it can take up to 48 hours to clear the whole road.
SAO for Wekwati, Fred Barron, says the community is patiently waiting to receive items such as all the fuel for the year, dry goods, lumber, and a grader.
I've got a duplex for the community government supposed to be coming in. We've now waited 2 years because the ice hasn't been thick enough to bring it in. Really? I believe there's one other house that's supposed to be coming in, our trailer that's supposed to come in too.
Building supplies will also be shipped by road to Wekwati for a new grocery store, expected to hold more bulk items and lower food costs.
For whatever reason, the Wekwati Road never starts until the middle of February. So then you've got a month to build the road. Now you're in March, and April's coming along pretty fast, and the warm weather's already here. So this year we're starting, hopefully, within the next few days. You know, this year we've got an ice profiler where we've never had one before, so we can see how thick our ice is.
Residents can expect to hit the highway to Gamity in February and Wekwati by March. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Wati.
The Manitoba government has created a new position aimed at supporting Indigenous students in the education system. Jackie Connell has been appointed to the new role of Assistant Deputy Minister of Indigenous Excellence in Education. She's currently an assistant superintendent with Frontier School Division, which has over 40 schools across northern Manitoba. She says the division is in a state of emergency and struggling to fill teaching roles in remote communities, putting Indigenous students at a disadvantage. Connell starts the new position on January 29th in hopes of creating systemic changes to the education system.
Our public education system has relatively looked the same for about the last 100 years. And it was not created to support Indigenous people. And so as a result, I feel like our system does not do a very good job at ensuring equity and achievement for Indigenous students. And I think that really where my goals lay would be in like systemic change and system change.
The Mi'kmaq are responding to a report on systemic racism in New Brunswick. We've got more on that coming up after the break. Welcome back. In New Brunswick, the Mi'kmaq chiefs have released a report in response to another study released a year ago. Back then, the New Brunswick Systemic Racism Commissioner did a report on systemic racism in that province. However, the New Brunswick chiefs say that it's simply been collecting dust. Chief George Ganesh of the Nadowa-Ganagik First Nation joins us now. Chief Ganesh, thanks so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Good to be with you today, Dennis.
What are the concerns that you have with the Commissioner's report?
There are many. I guess one of the main ones would be that it's been a year since the, I guess you'd call it a redacted report, was released by the provincial government, and no action on any of the recommendations. We'd had the opportunity partway through the work that the commissioner was undertaking to share some of our perspectives and our concerns, and she'd actually shared, I guess you would call it a draft of what it was that she was going to present to the provincial government. And many of the things that she had proposed to present were cut out of the report. So, you know, it didn't have the teeth that we were hoping it would have. And it seems the entire process was micromanaged.
Right. Can you walk us through some of the events surrounding systemic racism that led to the Commissioner's report?
Absolutely. But it was I would say with confidence that the primary ones that had brought things to a head were the 3 deaths of Aboriginal youth in the province, 2 of them by police officers at gunpoint, and another that was killed in a hit and run. Young gentleman. From our perspective, what we've seen, the investigation and the court situation that followed, no justice. There was no justice for that young man, for Brady Francis. So that's, and then you had, I guess as follow-ups to the 2 shootings, there were coroner's inquests, and both those inquests had found that those deaths were homicides. So you have an initial report, policing report saying no, these were justified, and yet you have 2 coroner's follow-ups that were saying no, these were homicides. These could have been prevented. They should have been prevented, and so here we are. A number of years later, the commissioner's report released a year ago. These events that had precipitated this, it's been going on 3 years now.
Yeah, the Mi'kmaq community has been calling for an Indigenous-led public inquiry into systemic racism for a while. In 2020, though, the Premier of New Brunswick stated a public inquiry would take too long and be unnecessary. Are you hopeful that an Indigenous-led public inquiry could still happen?
From our perspective, we would say that's the only process that will work. The government of New Brunswick, they had referred to other reports being done in the past and access to other recommendations, but none of those recommendations, excuse me, had been taken up by government. Even the recommendations from the TRC, the calls to action, the calls on the province of New Brunswick were not actioned on. It was more of a, okay, New Brunswick saying, okay, these are our recommendations to us from the TRC. This is what we're going to do with them. Nothing was done in partnership. Nothing has been done in partnership. Nothing continues to be done in partnership.
All too familiar story there, Chief. We'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you taking some time for us.
Absolutely. Very important issue, and this is just the, again, we're not going to let this go. Thank you very much for your time. Lolly.
Time now for one more quick break. Still to come, Marvel's Echo is debuting today on Disney. We've got a preview of that series that includes numerous Indigenous actors from Canada.
You have so much pain in you.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Clarence Jones once again graces us with the beauty along the Skeena River. Kaska Nation. This early morning view has got to be a great way to start your day. Thanks again, Clarence. Beauty. If you have a great photo, send it to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be featured right here as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, +4 with snow in Halifax, 2 above with snow in Fredericton. Flurries and 18 below in Kuujjuaq. Sun's out and -3 for Nain. +4 in Montreal, -12 with flurries in Val-d'Or. -4 and snow in Sault Ste. Marie. Snow and 10 below in North Bay. Cloudy and -7 for Thunder Bay. 10 below in Sioux Lookout. -21 with snow in God's Lake. 19 below with snow in Norway House. -9 in Winnipeg. 12 below with snow in Dauphin. Sun's out, but a chilly -24 in Regina. 23 below in Saskatoon. 23 below for Meadow Lake. -27 with snow in Buffalo Narrows. That chill across the prairies continues in northern Alberta. -29 in Fort Chipewyan. 28 below in Fort McMurray. -11 with snow in Edmonton, +4 and snow in Lethbridge. 6 above in Vancouver, cloudy and 2 in Kamloops. -28 in Prince George, sunny and 24 below in Dease Lake. -43 in Old Crow, 32 below in Whitehorse. -32 for Yellowknife, 39 below in Norman Wells. -27 in Sax Harbor, 38 below in Fort McPherson. -35 in Cambridge Bay, 28 below in Chesterfield. -27 in Resolute and Igloo Lake. Some chilly temperatures out there. Well, something that's going to warm up your television sets is the new Marvel series that debuts today at 9 p.m. Eastern on Disney+. We've spoken about it here. The miniseries Echo features Alaqua Cox, a deaf Native American actor in the lead role.
You have so much pain in you. So much rage that you can't contain it. Who's the monster?
Her character Echo will step into her Indigenous roots as she attempts to become the new crime lord after taking down the kingpin Wilson Fisk. Several Canadian actors are featured, including Devery Jacobs, Graham Greene, Tantu Cardinal, and Cody Lightning. The 5-episode series is rated MA for mature audiences, the first for any Marvel project due to the intense fighting scenes. It comes after Echo made her debut in Marvel's Hawkeye in 2021. I did not see Hawkeye, but that cast has me excited about Echo. After the stresses of day-to-day life, we could all use a good laugh. A group of Indigenous comedians from Saskatchewan are taking their talents to Hollywood in hopes of spreading some joy across the border. Reporter Rachel May has more.
When it comes to laughing, there's no reservations about this performance. The No Reservations tour features 9 Indigenous comics from across Saskatchewan. The tour started in Prince Albert on the 4th and finishes in Hollywood on the 12th of January. Comedian Afrin Sarka of Muscadet First Nation noticed that not only is Saskatchewan funny, but it's leading the way when it comes to comedy.
We have a lot of Indigenous comics here in Saskatoon, like more than when I talk to other people in comics from Calgary and Edmonton. There's only like 1 or 2 in the cities, and like those are much bigger comedian scenes, like where like up to 200 people worth of comedians, and there's only 2 or 3 Indigenous comics, where there's maybe 30 here in town, and there's probably 10 of us.
Sarka was inspired by his rock star grandfather to take the stage.
It's only one ever gets away.
She's kind of big. His name's Chester Knight, and if he has the hit song "Love Me Strong," that's a big thing. It's about my granny.
Other comedians joining the tour include Ryan Moccasin. Moccasin is known for his hit satirical site, The Feather News. Although this is the second leg of the tour, Moccasin says there's something special about taking his comedy on the road.
We won earlier this year in Ontario. We did Toronto and Ottawa. And so just to see how our comedy travels is really interesting.
This leg of the tour was made possible by the Saskatchewan Arts Board. Moccasin says his comedy comes from what is happening around him.
I have a joke about like being pulled over by the police, right? You know, and I like just have fun with that, right? And then when you start your joke like that, the audience is like tuned in right now, like, oh, what's going to happen? You got pulled over by the cops, right? So it's like a form of storytelling, you know, which is big in our cultures.
The No Reservations tour takes the stage at the historic venue of the Yard Theatre in the heart of East Hollywood on January 12th. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
And if you want to see more from Ryan and the Feather News, you can head on over to APTN Lumi to check that out. A new Inuit-owned coffee shop has opened up in the capital of Nunavut. It's called Kapitavik, or Coffee Shop in Inuktitut. Trevor Wright has that story.
Right before the new year, Kapitavik, an Inuit-owned coffee shop in Iqaluit, opened its doors to the public. The owners say they've already seen good support from the community. They offer a variety of coffees, cappuccinos, lattes, and pastries.
Yeah, we've been really overwhelmed with community support. Yeah, we've already developed loyal customers and regulars, also with the help of our rewards program as well. But yeah, Iqaluit is a really rapidly growing community, so we're just extremely happy to be giving back and also just receiving the positive feedback from everybody.
It's the latest addition to a city which has 2 other cafes and a Tim Hortons. Kaska Nation is majority owned by Maliakat, a boutique gift shop right next door for all things Inuit. The idea for a coffee shop came from Maliakat's continued good sales of APTN Coffee, a coffee bean company based in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut, owned by the non-profit Kitikmeot Heritage Society. Tatiana says APTN's coffee are a perfect match for Kapitavik.
We're really proud of our community-based business. Kapitiak themselves is a wonderful business. A majority of their profits go to programs that strengthen Inuit culture and language in Nunavut, and also not to mention their great tasting coffee. So we just really couldn't be more thankful for being able to support one another and provide the community with another coffee shop.
There are also future plans to open up a drive-thru, which would be a first for Nunavut. Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
Well, after a break for the holiday season, Face to Face is back with an all-new episode tonight. Our guest this week is Sandra Delarond, a longtime advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Tonight, she talks about why Manitoba and Winnipeg continue to be ground zero for the MMIWG2S crisis.
I think there's a lack of genuine systemic response to the issues around safety and well-being of Indigenous women and girls and gender diverse people. Prime example is the landfill and the failure to search, the ongoing failure to search the landfill, leading to at least 3 women being found in dumpsters in the past year. So that becomes a place where perpetrators feel that it's safe to get rid of their victim because no one's going to search.
Right. You can catch our entire interview with Sandra Delarond, who's been working on this for decades now, right here in less than 2 minutes' time on Face to Face. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. Of course, for much more, you can head on over to our website. That's aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward, RC McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Stick around. Face to Face is next. Have a great night.